On this episode of The State of Happiness, we have Dr. Michelle Dexter. She's a sexologist, an integrative psychologist, and an educator. Not only that, she's my neighbor. In this episode, we're going to talk about the summer of love and how to have healthy sexuality and relationships in your life. And not only that, you'll find out the unusual way that we met. Stay tuned.
You know, Leslie, as a woman business leader, sometimes life burns me out. I feel like I've forgotten who I am. I'm stressed, putting other people's needs before my own, my company, my colleagues, even my clients. I feel like there's no me time.
I know exactly how that is, which is why we partnered with We Are Creative Adventurers to develop a 5-day women leadership retreat in Playa Viva, Mexico. This retreat offers you the opportunity to disconnect from all the distractions and reconnect with your intuition. Come find yourself with Leslie Inc.
So you're saying during the 5 days, I'll learn your proven techniques to grow my business, change my relationship with money, manage stress, and realign my values to balance work and family life?
You will leave renewed and recharged. Yes, come find yourself with Leslie Inc.
Email workhappy@leslieinc.org for details on reserving your spot today. Space is limited, so email workhappy@leslieinc.org to reserve your spot.
Welcome to the State of Happiness. I'm your host, Leslie Juvin-Acker, Chief Happiness Officer at Leslie Inc., where we provide solutions for finding happiness for stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed senior-level managers, executives, and entrepreneurs. The State of Happiness podcast offers you conversation, inspiration, and ideas for helping you increase your happiness in the areas of your personal relationships, your career, your abundance, and your emotional well-being. So come along with us on this episode, and we'll help you get the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to help you find your own state of happiness. So thanks for joining us, Michelle.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about how we met, because how we met was serendipitous, a little weird, kind of crazy, but really cool.
Yes, certainly out of a bad circumstance, something really good came of it, which was that I got to meet you, Leslie. So this is kind of a story of all things coalescing.
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm getting married July 7th.
Yay!
And so I contacted a rental supply company because obviously I need to rent tablecloths and all those fun things. And I found this company that had a flat fee, and I thought, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so after much back and forth, I discovered that they were going out of business. And then I thought, well, why don't I just buy everything that they have?
Yeah, buy them out.
That's right. So I did. So normally I always park my car in my garage, but this was the one day that I had bought all of that inventory. So
Yeah.
my garage was full of all of that, and I had to park my car on the street for just
Right.
this one night.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, that some thieves managed to break into my car.
Yeah.
And of all the things to take, they took my briefcase, which had all of my materials for teaching at the university. So
Yeah.
nothing important, just, or I should say of value. It's only important to me, just a bunch of term papers and homework and things.
Intrinsically.
Yeah, intrinsically important to me, but not to anybody else. Yeah, I mean, like, you and I were joking earlier, like, what did they think? That I keep my Rolex in there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just for the record, Michelle lives literally right around the corner from me. And one morning, my husband Frank came in and he said, "Hey, I found somebody's briefcase and it's sitting at our dining room table." And me and Anna come in and we're like, "Well, are we gonna look in it or are we gonna figure out who it was?" And he said, "Oh, I did." And I called another lady and had a weird conversation with her, but it wasn't the bag. And then found that it was you, and that you live literally, I don't even want to, maybe like a minute walk away from us.
Yeah, literally six houses between us, something like that.
Yeah. So all this time, I'm living next to someone amazing. She's a sexologist. She's her own intuitive, and she has an amazing practice that she helps a lot of people. And I was like, and the weirder thing is that the day before, Anna and I were like, we would love to reach out into the university system to really bring our own message at Leslie Inc., our work happy to students and, the educational community. Wouldn't it be great if we could connect to a professor or someone like that? And then literally the next day, this happens. So we bring we finally get a chance to bring the bag to you.
Yes.
And you were with a student.
Yes.
Who is also your friend.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Andrew, my friend and student, I've been helping him complete his doctoral dissertation on expressive arts therapy, which is super cool because instead of just sitting and talking to a therapist, you now actually get to do things like finger paint or roll around in paint or yeah.
No way.
Yeah, that's more the extreme end. But when he told me that one, I thought it sounded like a lot of fun.
That sounds therapeutic.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Or, you get to break pencils or, but the point being is that you get to create a piece of art that's uniquely expressive of your own consciousness state.
And so you were guiding him to do that.
Yeah, I'm guiding him on writing his dissertation. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So he is actually creating a theory that actually explains that, what the psyche wants to share needs to come out in a visual medium.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we could talk about that all day.
Absolutely.
So we come up and I think I'm wearing like a whole white outfit. It probably looked like I was in a cult. Bring your bag.
Oh, I thought you just looked comfortable.
My whole white jumpsuit, my relaxing suit. That was pretty cool. And then you said you were a sexologist, and Anna and I were like, that is the coolest thing ever, because I don't think I've ever met one face-to-face before. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty cool.
Yes.
So tell me, how did you get into sexology and how did you get into your work? Because you also use intuitive and energy healing type work like me.
Yes, I do. Yes, yeah. So I felt the same way, that I was like, wow, I get to meet this really cool neighbor who has all these really neat things that she's doing. Oh, yay!
Yes.
Yeah. So how did I get into sexology? Well, Leslie, I wish I had some great sexy story to tell you. But
no 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you something riveting, it started in jail or something like that, but no. It's a pretty banal story. So 14 years ago, I opened up the doors for my private practice, and I was a generalist back then. Basically anything that was bothering you, I was willing to treat. But 90% of the people who showed up had love and sex problems.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and then right around that same time, then I left the university I was teaching for and moved to a different one, and they asked me to start teaching human sexuality classes.
Okay.
Yeah, so now suddenly I had to become a sexologist.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So what was going on in your what was going on in your life that led you to that type of work?
I don't know, but I'm really grateful that life kind of led me down this path.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in one of those ultra conservative religious households.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
My grandmother was a Victorian, and she raised my mother like that. So,
oh, really?
Oh,
a Victorian?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. So I mean, just think about always having modesty. Like you must always dress to cover the body, and you don't talk about sex or lovemaking or just any of those things.
Yeah, because it's shameful.
Oh, it's shameful, absolutely. And to admit that women have desire.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So then you go off and you teach it.
I do. Yeah. So you can imagine my parents' horror and shame when they discovered what I was up to.
Really? Sexual revolutionary?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe I should have told them beforehand, but we were at a birthday party for one of their friends.
Okay.
This is a family friend, and they invited me to come along, and so the son of the man having the birthday comes over and introduces himself, and he says, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm a psychologist." I figured I'd just leave it at that. He says, "Oh, what's your specialty?" And I thought, well,
here we go.
Yeah, here we go. I said, "Love and sex. I'm a sexologist." And he's like, "Oh, that's very cool." And my mother just audibly across the table takes this breath, and she has this horror-stricken look on her face.
Really?
Oh, yes. She was just, it looked like I'd stabbed her.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one would think that healthy sex life and romantic life creates a happy home.
You would think, and certainly that's my philosophy, that if you have happy, healthy sexuality within yourself, then you have the opportunity for happy, healthy sexuality expression with a partner, and that makes for happy partnerships and happy marriages.
Right.
And happy partnerships and marriages make for happy families, and happy families make for happy communities, and happy communities make for a happy world.
There you go. That's going to be the slogan here for your company. But it's so true. Like,
Right?
it boils down to creating happy communities, and it really
Yes.
starts within.
It does, absolutely. Yeah, because if you've got a bunch of miserable people bumping into each other, well, obviously misery mixed with misery just makes more misery.
Right. I just wonder, of all the terrorism that happens in the world, could it be solved with a
Yeah.
good night of lovemaking?
You know, I often wonder.
So we're here to talk about the professionals who are listening to this podcast and they want to get help to build a happy career, and they're so busy.
Yes.
They're
Yes,
busy, they're working all the time. Some people
Yes.
work in 12, 16-hour days. Some of my clients travel all the time, 6 months at a time, and they're barely home.
Yeah.
Let's start with the people who are single and looking for love.
Mm-hmm.
What stories or experiences have you experienced with professionals who are just too busy for love, romance, or to find someone?
Well, to be very blunt, we have to decide what's important to us. So if you decide that work is going to be your life, okay, fine, that's a legitimate choice.
Right.
But if you decide that love is important to you, then you're going to have to create space and time and energy to allocate for that. So that's number one.
Right.
Make a decision.
Make a decision.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It can be, because a lot of people get very afraid.
Yeah.
So here's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. There's something in sexology called a script.
Okay.
So sometimes we call it a love script, sometimes we call it a romance script, sometimes we call it a sex script.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just like a script for a play, you know, it's everything that you believe that should happen, you know, when you're out there, you know, flirting, dating, having sex, all of that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people are very unconscious with their scripts. And then they just get mad when somebody violates their script.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
Yeah, like I'm dealing with a person right now who's a professional woman in her 40s and just very quick to toss away men that she dates. She's like, oh, this one disappointed me, that one disappointed me. And so I've been talking to her about, well, what's your script? Okay, so just because a man didn't text you, he doesn't know. He can't read your mind. His script might be that I texted her every other day. That was good enough.
Yeah.
And her script is, no, I need a detailed script every single day. So we've had to talk about, okay, if you want that, you actually have to share. You actually have to use your words. And
You sounds like you're talking to a 3-year-old,
Well,
but that makes sense.
But right, but you know, sometimes with adults you have to talk to them like a 3-year-old.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just like they taught us in preschool, use your words.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you actually have to say to a man, and be specific, use direct requests.
Right.
I would really enjoy it if I got a detailed script from you every day saying how your day went, asking how mine was, and at the end saying something like, I can't wait to see you again.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because when you say script, it's kind of like, it reminds me like Shakespeare says, you know, all the world's the stage and,
Yes.
and every
Yes.
man in it is just a player, right?
Yes, yes.
And we have our stories or script in our
Yes,
head and we're
yes.
coming to the scene and somebody's kind of like, that's not what was written down.
That's right.
And you're acting out of it. Oh,
Yeah.
great. Now you've ruined the scene. You've ruined the experience
yes,
for me.
Yes.
So tell me more about this lady. What happened then?
So I think we're making some progress
Right.
because I've actually convinced her to keep on dating the guy that she's dating right now.
Okay.
And she's been more open and saying things like, I want X. You know, I want a text that looks like this. I need you to call me every day. Oh, and another thing that really offends her is that she really feels that after a night of lovemaking that she really wants a follow-up after that. She doesn't want to be ignored after that
Right.
feels bad to her.
Right.
So far he's been pretty responsive about like, okay, the night after we see each other, I definitely need to send you, you know, a text or a phone call
Yeah.
to follow up.
How you made me feel,
Yeah.
how great it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. So now they've run into a bit of a snafu because she's a single mom.
Right.
And her daughter needed to come home during the middle of a date.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so this man was rather perturbed by that and said as much.
Okay.
And so she was ready to just, you know, throw in the towel again. And I said, look, again, you have to communicate because he doesn't know. All that looked like to him is that you just let your daughter just come in and interrupt a date.
Right.
So you have to explain to him, look, you know, my daughter and I have some special circumstances and this is a package deal. So
Right.
either you're willing to deal with it or not.
Right.
Yeah. So I convinced her to say that. And he said something in reply like, oh, okay, I'm no longer perplexed by this situation.
Oh,
and
wow.
I thought, this is good, because as long as I've known her, it's been chew 'em up, spit 'em out, chew 'em up, spit 'em out.
Right.
Yeah, so I think we're making some progress.
That sounds awesome, because you know what it sounds like is, it sounds like first and foremost she has to know what she wants.
Yes.
And what bothers her.
Yes.
So knowing the triggers and knowing the things that make her happy.
Yes.
But then developing the communication skills to actually say, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is what hurts me.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of effort.
It does. It does. But you know what? Nobody said it was going to be easy. They only said it would be worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So okay. Going into that, you kind of led right perfectly into this next question, but how much of relationship problems are the other person's fault? And what are some of the common causes of sexual dysfunction that you've seen?
Well, let's just throw it out on the table.
Okay.
Nobody's perfect,
All
so
right.
let's just say it's everybody's fault.
Okay. That's fair enough.
And your second question, the common causes of sexual dysfunction. Well, here's a little known fact. The most common cause of sexual dysfunction is dehydration.
Shush.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
What? Tell me more. I need to know now.
Yeah, well, think about it. What is going on in sexual arousal? Now we've got lots of blood flow pumping to the pelvic floor, right?
Right.
Okay, so what is what is blood mostly?
Water. Yeah.
So if the blood is sluggish because it doesn't have enough water in it, it makes it very hard, because now the body is dehydrated and it has to use that water for what little water it's got for other things.
Right.
So it's going to be basically saying, screw you, I don't have enough water to go to your pelvic floor. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That kind of like mixes in a lot with Chinese medicine.
It does.
The yin, the yang,
Yes,
and
yes,
the
exactly.
flow of the blood and the qi and all of that.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So start there. So, everybody should be drinking a minimum of 2 quarts of water per day.
2 quarts.
2 quart minimum. Yeah, for men often 3. Yeah.
I have to say, right now, my mind is blown. I'm just processing how powerfully simple
Right.
that is.
Right.
So, give me a story of someone who was dehydrated. You got one off the top of your head? Or?
Oh yeah. I this is probably personal, but hey, it's an ex-boyfriend, so let's talk about him.
Ow! Okay.
Yeah, so I was dating a man in his mid-50s, and otherwise he was in pretty good health, but I just noticed this pattern,
Right.
About, impotence, and I'm like, what is going on here? So I started asking questions. What are you eating? What are you drinking? And it turned out that he was drinking a lot of Mountain Dew and no water.
Oh my God, are you for real?
Yeah, and I just thought, in what world is this healthy? And so I just tried to very gently say, sweetie, that is actually really not good for your body, and obviously you're seeing the physical effect here. So here's a canteen. Take this with you to work. Fill this twice during the day. And then when you come home in the evening, let's see what happens.
And then?
Yeah, so 8 times out of 10, things were a lot better.
Holy cannoli. You know what? Now as I'm listening to you, I too myself had an ex-boyfriend, and he was experiencing, and he was young, early 20s, and he was experiencing these issues of impotency. And also at the same time, as I remember, he also had kidney stones.
Oh,
because he was drinking too much soda at work.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
That, 12, 13 years later, problem identified.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you hear this, men and women,
Yes,
drink that water and you can have more enjoyable sex.
exactly.
I cannot believe that.
Right?
Seriously.
I know. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones you need.
Oh my God. So what other things are common causes? What else do you got?
Well, there can also be hormonal issues.
Okay.
And I am a huge fan of working with an integrative doctor to figure out what's going on there.
What's an integrative doctor for people who don't know?
Yeah, so integrative medicine or integrative any type of interventions. Obviously, I'm an integrative psychologist, so dealing with all these things with mental health and whatnot. So integrative means integrating body, mind, and spirit.
Okay.
So somebody who's going to look at the whole of you.
Right.
So they're going to look at everything from diet and environment and what's going on with your body to also what's going on in your mental states and your emotional states.
Yeah.
And then also what's going on in your soul or your spirit.
Right, so basically not going to someone who's just saying, take a blue pill or throw some lube on it.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
so go see that.
Yes. So find somebody who can address all of you, all the parts.
Okay. So go see someone then with the hormones. What next?
So If you do need some hormonal supplementation, I'm a huge fan of bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I always say, look, most people were made the natural way.
Right, right.
And so look, our bodies were not made in laboratories.
Right.
And therefore we are not friendly to chemicals.
Right.
To man-made chemicals. We are natural beings. This is a natural chemistry set.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So why don't you use natural things, things like plants, for example, to bring your this biochemistry set, this natural biochemistry set of your body back into balance.
Right. So is this an issue that you commonly see in women who are experiencing menopause?
I do,
okay.
yeah, and andropause can be an issue too. Typically that happens a little later for men. Men in their 60s and 70s are more dealing with andropause, but women in their 40s and 50s with menopause, absolutely. Yeah, so all those poor women who are dealing with, the hot flashes and the dry vagina and, ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I'm a huge advocate for let's get on the bioidentical hormones. Let's figure out what's going on there and let's fix it. Now, there's usually an emotional component to sexual dysfunction, whether it's painful sex, dry vagina, impotence, whatever, whatever's on the board.
That's true.
So in my practice, roughly 95% of the time, it is something emotional in conjunction with something physical.
Right.
And sometimes it's even purely emotional that's causing the physical.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, we have to look at what's going on there.
Yeah, psychosomatic issues.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because there's a concept in psychology or in integrative psychology called body-mind, one word.
Right.
Yeah, so body is mind, mind is body. They are not separated. They are literally the same thing.
Yeah, it's not very Cartesian.
No,
Right.
it's not. No. So it's a very holistic way to look at it. And so when we discover what's going on there, and we can actually change the beliefs, we can change the script, deal with the traumas, because oh dear God, there's so many people out there who've been sexually traumatized.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, even if it's just mild traumas. So when I talk about little trauma, little t, to big T, big trauma.
Yeah.
Even the little t trauma, can really wreak havoc in a person's sex life.
Absolutely.
So just, little t trauma, something like a child is exploring his or her body, and then somebody comes along and is like, don't touch that, that's shameful.
Yeah, I remember that. I
Right?
remember this one time when I was a kid that something happened. My dad walked by the door and he just goes, "That's nasty."
Oh.
And just kept walking. And I'm going, "What's nasty? I don't even know."
Yeah.
So it is this the script in our head,
Yeah.
these stories that we tell ourselves, or even these little experiences that can change the way that we look at our own sexuality as a whole
Absolutely.
being.
Yes.
And as someone who wants to share our bodies with someone else.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was one man that I was helping with impotency, and one of the things that came out was that he had a lot of sexual shaming from religion, which is not an uncommon story.
Yeah, that's very common.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so as a 13-year-old boy, here he was, exploring his body and staying up late to watch, the sexy late night television shows.
Oh, okay, HBO late at night or Showtime or Skinamax.
Yeah, Skinamax. Yeah, that stuff. And so he'd masturbate, but if he had an orgasm, then he would feel so ashamed that somehow he made it up in his head, again, this script, that somehow I lost control of my body, that I'm not okay. So what was he carrying forward in his life?
Right.
All of those limiting beliefs about my sexuality isn't okay, I can't control it, I'm a victim of it.
Right.
So no wonder he was presenting with impotence.
How does that translate into the professional world, sexual dysfunction?
Well, I noticed that a lot of people choose to basically hide behind their work.
Ah.
Yeah. It's almost like I can compensate by being really super successful over here in my professional life, and now I don't have to look at, I don't want to use the word failure, but for lack of a better one, we're going to go with it. Yeah. The quote, failure in my personal life.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I think of someone that I knew like that who, now we're getting graphic, but had a micro penis and was very successful in his career, on the global level.
Yeah.
And there is a sense of overcompensation there.
Yeah.
What would happen if somebody just felt really good about themselves all over, physically, sexually? What would happen in their careers? I wonder.
Well, frankly, I think that how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Ah.
So if you're feeling, like, yes, I have a good sex life, I like my body, that how can you not carry that forward into the boardroom or into your professional life?
Right, you feel comfortable. And also, if you feel comfortable, like you say, then you're not easily shamed.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't have to put that pressure on yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And for a person with a micropenis, fine. Then all you need to do is find a partner who loves you and accepts you for you.
Right.
You know?
Or maybe it's turned on by it.
Exactly.
There's an audience for that.
Absolutely. And there's a lid for every pot, really.
I love that. So funny. Oh, man. Okay, so we got busy couples. We've got the source of sexual dysfunction, which is drinking a lot of water, essentially.
Yeah.
How can a couple rejuvenate intimacy after a long period of focusing on work and kids? I have to say, you might be preaching to me here. Tell me more about that.
Well, we were talking about, how you have to allocate your time and your energy. So you have to make it a priority. You have to decide, this is important to me.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say explore ways to reconnect emotionally. What is that going to look like for you?
Right.
Is that going to mean, take the kids to grandma and grandpa's and that now you have a night home alone?
Yeah.
Is it going to be that we take a walk together? Is it that we go away for a long weekend?
Right.
I don't know. But I also say that it's nice to schedule dates with opportunities for lovemaking. Not that you're going to necessarily have to do it, but that there's an opportunity there.
Oh, just the thought alone of going, this could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
actually, that's a
exactly.
really nice thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So there was one man that I thought had figured out a genius solution.
Okay.
So he was, married with young children, and,
Right.
and often during the week it was hard to make time for lovemaking. So every Friday night he would hire a babysitter, and he paid her a little bit extra to do the laundry and do the dishes. And
That's nice.
Yeah.
I need that in
yeah,
my life.
right? I mean, because how much will it cost to pay a teenager or a young adult a little bit extra to do laundry and dishes, right?
Exactly.
And so then they knew that every Friday night that they had the opportunity to go out and go on the town and enjoy each other. And then when they got home, the house was clean, the kids were in bed, so that they could have lovemaking then. And then on Saturday morning, that the kids just knew that mommy and daddy spend time together on Saturday morning, and please entertain yourself. Make yourself some cereal, sit in front of the TV, watch cartoons. Mommy and daddy are having alone time.
I remember this one time, I have a 3-year-old son, and me and Frank were in our room, and Don, I knocked on the door, he goes, Mommy, Daddy, are you in there? And it's just so true, but sometimes you just gotta force yourself, and not in a force yourself kind of way, but really, make the choice, because we want to be such good parents, and we want to not traumatize our children, but it's like you said, if you don't have the priority and you don't feel good in your relationship and you feel pressured, then what good are you as a parent?
Well, not a very good one, right? Because mommy and daddy who are all stomping around all resentful,
right,
who haven't been able to attend to their own romance and love-making needs, that's not good for children.
Right.
And this is part of positive sex education for children.
Right.
To just really make it very normalized, for them. That mommy and daddy, are having special time, or mommy and daddy are having alone time, whatever code word you want to use.
Right.
And you don't need to say much more than that to the children, but
yeah, they know.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
It kind of reminds me, as you're talking about this, that movie, The Fockers.
Oh.
Do you remember that with Adam Sandler, and you got Ben Stiller, excuse me,
yeah.
And it's got Barbara Streisand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's that guy's name anyway? And his
Dustin Hoffman, maybe?
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
God, whatever, the dad, I think his name is Jack, and they go in and they visit, and the parents, or the mom's a sexologist or whatever, and she's got all these people coming in, and they're just talking about sex so naturally, and it just horrifies him because his in-laws are very conservative.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But, isn't it nice to be in that environment? Like, sex is normal, sex is natural, we obviously maintain our privacy, but, it's okay to talk about it.
Right.
Rather than the type of environment, it's like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah. Because shame is a major component.
Oh my gosh, shame is so huge.
Right.
Oh, it's so huge. Yeah. I mean, I am hard-pressed to come up with an example in 14 years of somebody who had sexual issues that didn't have shame.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe there was one. Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty much nearly universal.
Yeah, shame.
And, the other side of shame is embarrassment.
Yeah.
And, they basically run on the same meridian track.
Right.
So if you don't have one, you probably got the other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I can't wait to bring you back so we can talk more about this. All right. So let's talk about your practice. Let's talk about all the cool things that you're doing, because I'm fascinated. I love it all. And I think that it's great that you focus on this one area of people's lives that can make all the areas so much better. Because I do relationship coaching, but I don't do the sex part of it so much. That's not really my forte. Tell us about all the modalities that you use to help someone holistically and integratively deal with their sexual dysfunction issues or just their romance needs.
Absolutely. So I use 28 different modalities, so I'll try to distill it down. Yeah.
You're a multi-talented woman with many tools.
Well, thank you, Leslie. I appreciate that. So these days I use integrative psychology with a special emphasis in energy psychology.
Okay.
Yeah, and so energy psychology is again holistic, and it deals with not only the body but the emotions and the mental states and the soul.
Right.
And so we always start with the goal. You know, what is the goal at hand? So often it'll be something like to have happy, healthy sex life, you know, specifically with erections on demand, or to have a happy, healthy sex life without any pain.
Right.
Yeah. Or to have happy, healthy expression in my marriage, you know, with sex at least 2 to 3 times a week, you know, so something very specific.
Right.
And so then we start looking at everything that is what we call, quote, a damage pattern.
Right.
That's getting in the way of expressing that goal.
Right.
So here's the thing: is that I'm sure you know this, that 90% of your mind is unconscious.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, you can will yourself to do anything you want to, but basically, even with your willpower, that's only going to get you 10% of the way there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to have all of you on board. You've got to have your body, all of your mind, you know, both unconscious and conscious, and your soul or your spirit, whatever word you want to use, on board there.
Yeah.
So most typically what happens when I discover the damage patterns is that they're traumas, and again, little t to big T, you know. So also stuck emotions.
Yeah.
If the body cannot process an emotion, it will quite literally get stuck at a cellular level.
That's a lot of the work I do.
Yeah.
So that's very useful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So someone comes in, you use different modalities, you
Yeah.
work them towards a very specific
I do.
goal.
I do. Yeah, I use applied kinesiology.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, which is awesome and wonderful, right?
Yeah, it's muscle testing
yeah.
if you don't know it.
Yeah, exactly. And so through muscle testing or applied kinesiology, we can actually talk to the body, talk to the unconscious, and
Yeah.
actually figure out what's going on there.
That's
So-
my favorite.
Yeah, me too. So then I always measure, so how much negative emotional charge is there on the goal?
Right.
And then when we get down to 0%, then I know that theoretically that the goal is complete.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's very pragmatic approach
Yes.
to a very sensitive, emotional, spiritual issue.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So between the limiting decisions that people make, you know, which are often huge. Oh my God, those are often the things that get in the way the most, you know, because people have had some negative circumstance in their life, and then they've made some unconscious limiting decision about themselves or about their sex lives.
Right.
So things like, it's not okay to be sexual. It's not safe to be sexual.
Right.
My body is ugly, nobody wants it. Yeah. I can't be sexual because something bad will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I'll hurt other people,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
it's not good for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll let somebody down.
Uh-huh.
What will
Yeah.
people think?
Yes.
I mean, those are all those stories.
Right. All of
Gosh.
those stories.
And so you've been doing this all this time, helping
Yeah.
people using these modalities.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So, you know, I came to this work because, you know, like most psychology students, you know, at that time, it was incumbent upon me to go to therapy. And I felt that in therapy, I was making snail's pace progress.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, well, okay, I walked out of there going exactly what my problem is cognitively, but nothing changes.
Right.
So when I discovered integrative psychology, and specifically energy psychology, and things got better in a matter of minutes,
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing.
That's how I felt too.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so instead of like, well, now that I've talked about this limiting belief, you know, ad nauseum, now I actually changed it. I actually transformed it. So
Yeah.
something like in my case, you know, being so conservative growing up, like, you know, it's not okay to be sexual in a non-romantic, or excuse me, in a non-marital context. You know,
Right.
that was a belief that created a lot of shame for me. That now I could transform that, and now my new reality, literally in 5 minutes, was, you know what? No, that was somebody else's conception of reality, and I don't have to buy into it. So,
Absolutely.
So my conception of reality is that sex is sacred, and that as long as I'm using it in a context of being kind and loving with other people, it's fine.
Wow, you just rewrote the whole book of the Scarlet Letter. You would walk in and you would change that whole city in
Right?
like less than 5 minutes. You'd be like, oh, and then afterwards you'd be burning the stake.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is so true. That's so amazing.
Right?
Yeah, and then you bring that into your educational component.
I do.
And teaching other people to become healers and
Yes.
helpers in a way.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, thank you.
And then you also help people do premarital counseling, and then you actually can marry them too. Tell us more about that.
Yes, yeah. So this is a new business a new part of my business that I opened up just last year about being a wedding officiant, which is so fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So all this time I have been doing some premarital counseling, and so now that I figured that this dovetails together beautifully.
Yeah.
So I had a young couple come in yesterday for their second session of premarital counseling, and we've been dealing with some sexual issues.
Right.
Which has been really, really great to talk to them about this stuff. So one of the things that we discovered is that the groom is drinking too much, and that's actually affecting his sexual functioning.
Well, yeah. No crap.
Again, right? Yeah. Let's see. Drinking too much dehydrates you. Again, sexual dysfunction, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about him mindfully choosing how much he's going to drink. Knowing that he might be hurting his relationship if he drinks too much.
Well, let's see. What is more important, having good sex or drinking a beer? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, ask a man.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was an interesting piece that we discovered. And we also discovered that the bride is anorgasmic oftentimes in their sexual encounters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we talked about how, the good news is that you guys are getting married, so you have the rest of your lives to figure this out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and the second piece of good news is that obviously your groom here is very motivated to help you figure this out.
Right.
So you guys need to, again, use your words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, she was saying, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt his feelings, and so I looked at the groom and I said, when she says things to you like harder, faster, more, what does that do for you? He says, it turns me on.
I love it.
And I think that was a revelation for her. That she was so holding back because she was so afraid that she was going to hurt his feelings. And I said, no, it's all about, giving him direction because he wants to please you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So show him your passion. Show him what you're excited about.
That's so cool. It goes back even still to that all the world's a stage thing.
Yes.
That we can help direct each other in creating a harmonious show, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're on their track to getting married, huh?
Yes, they are. Yeah. The
That's
wedding's
so
in
cool.
3 weeks.
Okay, well, there you go. We're going to be thinking of you on their honeymoon.
I hope so. I hope she's going to come back and sing the anorgasmia is done. It's finished.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And so how many people have you married so far?
16.
16 people
16
in
couples.
a year.
Yeah.
Wow, you've been busy.
Yeah, since January 1st, 16 couples.
Since January 1st.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
golly.
I take it back. It's December 31st. But anyway, that's close enough. So
Yeah. That's radical.
Yeah.
And then you're getting married too.
And I'm getting married too.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, very excited. I've been single for 20 years, so this is going to be very nice to be married again.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, I had to learn what was holding me back. So now that I figured it all out, all the stuff that holds you back from getting the love of your life, now I figured it out, and now I can share it with everybody else. So now it won't take 20 years.
Exactly. And on top of that, your groom to be is also in the similar work.
Yes.
So you guys are both healers and helpers.
Yes, we are. Yeah. He is a professional psychic, as well as he owns and runs his own school that is based on spiritual healing for the chakras.
Look at that. I mean, I can't wait to talk to him. That's so exciting. See, look at this. Did you hear this, guys? I mean, it's such a fascinating conversation, and you're literally right around the corner from me. And you do so many cool things and you help so many people. That's so great.
Thank you.
Michelle, thank you so much. Where can people find you? How can they get a hold of you? And, if they have any questions, what can they do?
Well, let me make a personal invitation for all you listeners out there that I would love to talk with you if you have any love or sex issues that you'd like to work through, because I'd love to help you create a happy, healthy sex life and happy, healthy love life for yourself. So my website is drmichelledexter.com. That's drmichelledexter.com. And my email is michelle@drmichelledexter.com.
Okay.
And my phone number is 619-807-0151.
Well, there you go. All right, folks, if you've got love issues, you know the woman to talk to. She's my neighbor and my friend. Thanks to those thieves who didn't get away with much. It was a perfect serendipitous moment. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's 2:00 in the morning. You can't sleep. Your mind is racing, thinking about work, your career, and your future. How can I get a raise? Why is my boss being so difficult? What am I doing wrong? What's keeping you up at night? If you had the answers to these questions, what choices would you make? Thanks to Leslie Inc.'s Happiness Dex app, Career Edition, you can have the answers to these questions. In less than 60 seconds, you can gain essential perspective and insight to the questions that are keeping you up at night. Download it today. Leslie Inc.'s Happiness Dex app, available in the Apple Store and Google Play Store. Get the answers you need and feel good about tomorrow. Get exclusive news and invitations today at leslieinc.org/app. Get the answers you need with the Happiness Dex app by Leslie Inc. A many thanks to you, happy campers, for joining us today on this episode of The State of Happiness. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can join me at Twitter at Leslie Juvin, as well as follow at Leslie Inc. on Instagram, and talk with us at Facebook at Official Leslie Inc. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to leave us a rating and subscribe and share with a friend. As always, thanks for joining us, and remember, a smile goes a long way.